Here's everything my day 17 looked like, compressed into 8 seconds. And then...
Hello everyone, welcome back to day 17 of Undegreed. Today was one of those rare coding days where everything actually clicked into place. I started my morning with my DSA lecture, and we finally wrapped up the chaotic but satisfying world of backtracking and recursion. To close the chapter properly, we tackled two problems that pushed both logic and patience to their limits. The first one involved checking whether a string can be split into valid dictionary words. A simple idea on paper, but in practice it turns into a full-on puzzle, trying different cuts, backtracking when a split fails, and searching for that one perfect path that works. The second problem was a much tougher playlist challenge where you had to count how many playlists you could make while using all songs at least once and avoiding repeats until other songs had played. A mix of combinatorics, dynamic programming, and a tiny bit of suffering, but finishing it felt genuinely rewarding. Once we wrapped up those two, we stepped into a brand new topic, trees. We learned how a binary tree grows from a single root into left and right children, layer by layer, forming this beautiful branching structure. What really stood out today was understanding preorder traversal. You create the root first, then dive into constructing the entire left subtree before moving on to the right. It almost feels like storytelling. Introduce the main character, explore everything happening on the left side of their world, then shift to the right. Watching a complete tree emerge from just a preorder sequence was honestly pretty satisfying. Next, it was time to take all of this to leak code. I began with the word break question again. The approach was to check whether the string could be split into valid dictionary words. I used a memo dictionary to remember which substrings had already been checked so I wouldn't repeat the same work. By combining recursion with memoization and checking every possible breakpoint, I was able to figure out whether each part of the string could form valid segments. With the memo helping avoid repeated calculations, the full string became easy to evaluate. After that, I moved on to the number of music playlists problem. Here too, I used a memo dictionary along with dynamic programming. At every point in the playlist, I had two choices: add a new song that hadn't been used yet, or add an old song that was allowed to repeat after different songs had played. Using recursion plus memoization, each state stored the number of ways to build the playlist with a given number of used songs and a certain playlist length. The memo dictionary helped me avoid recalculating the same state again and again. By building up from these states, I was able to compute the total number of valid playlists. Both codes ran smoothly and got submitted without any issues. The next part of my routine was my daily language practice, and it was time for Spanish today, and I hit day 309 of my streak. The lesson was about the human body, and I learned a few useful words. To feel is centers, to remember is acordas, la cabeza means head, el corazón means heart, los ojos are the eyes, and la espalda is the back. Slowly, it's all starting to feel more natural while trying to speak Spanish. Right after finishing Spanish, I headed to the gym for push day, to target my chest and shoulders. For chest, I did 2 sets each of incline barbell bench press, flat bench press, and pec deck flies. For shoulders, I did 2 sets of rear delt flies and single-hand lateral raises. I don't train front delts because they get actively engaged in all the chest exercises. The pump was solid and the whole session felt great. Once I wrapped that up, I moved straight into my quant prep. Today's topic was all about understanding proofs, what they are, why we use them, and how they help us establish truth in mathematics. I started with the basics, axioms, which are statements we accept as true without needing proof, the fundamental building blocks of all mathematical reasoning. Then I learned about propositions, which are statements that can either be true or false, and our job is to prove which one they are. With the help of a YouTube lecture, I dived deeper into the logic behind proofs. I learned how truth tables work, a simple way to break down complex statements into all possible true and false combinations so you can see exactly when something holds. I also explored negation, which is basically flipping a statement to mean the opposite, and implications, those if P, then Q statements that seem simple but hide a lot of subtle logic. The best part was understanding how to determine truth values inside logical statements. Once you get how each component behaves, you can trace how an entire sentence of logic turns true or false. It felt like decoding the grammar of mathematics. Once you understand how the pieces fit, the whole structure becomes much less intimidating. Overall, it was a surprisingly fun session, building the foundation of how mathematical truth is constructed, step by logical step. Yesterday, I finished 0 to 1, so today I picked up Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I read the first 10 pages, and they were surprisingly inspiring. Right from the start, the book shows Phil Knight not as a businessman, but as a young runner who found clarity and purpose in every stride. Running was how he thought, dreamed, and understood himself. Those opening pages introduced the spark that became Nike, his crazy idea that Japanese shoes could challenge the German giants. He was 24, unsure of everything, but the idea stuck with him strongly enough to chase it. And the lesson is simple: big things don't start big. They start with a small thought that won't leave you alone, a mix of excitement and fear that pushes you to take the first step. Nike began with that one step, and most dreams do, too. Next, it was time for my daily trading session, the part of the day where the energy shifts and the focus gets razor sharp. I fired up my trading terminal, ran through Forex Factory, and double-checked all upcoming news events so nothing unexpected could mess with my game plan. Then I shifted my attention to gold, studying the structure candle by candle and lining it up with the dollar index. The dollar was gaining strength, momentum was clean, and the market was practically hinting at one thing: a solid selling bias. So I waited patiently for the New York Open, that moment when liquidity surges in, volatility kicks up, and the real direction reveals itself. No chasing candles, no panic entries, no FOMO. Just sticking to the exact level and strategy one prepared earlier. And right when price tapped my marked zone, I pulled the trigger and entered my short. From there, the setup played out beautifully. Gold dropped almost immediately in my direction, moving with precision, and I booked a clean $113 profit. Smooth, controlled, and exactly the kind of trade you want every day. Moments like this remind me why discipline is everything in trading. Strategy beats impulse, patience beats prediction, and emotional control beats everything. Today was just another clear example that when you trust your analysis and respect your rules, the market rewards you. And that was all for day 17. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
The network awakens. Intelligence takes form. Undegreed. The signature remains.